I often hear people saying, I want to be my real self. I want to be my genuine self so that I can live authentically. Because we all realize that living authentically is very freeing. So let's read a couple of words by Nisargadatta Maharaj from the book I Am That. Let's see what the master has to say about it. You must realize, first of all, that you are a proof of everything, including yourself. None can prove your existence because his existence must be confirmed by you first. Your being and knowing you owe nobody. Remember, you are entirely on your own. You do not come from somewhere, you do not go anywhere. You are timeless being and awareness. Now, the questioner is not satisfied by this statement and he says, that's okay, I understand it conceptually, but there is a gap between what you are saying and the way I am perceiving it. What you are saying, yes, it makes sense, but my mind is saying that there is a gap. So, what do I do with that gap? To which Maharaj replies, give up the idea of being what you think yourself to be, and there will be no gap. By imagining yourself as separate, you have created the gap. You need to cross it. Just don't create it. All is you and yours. There is nobody else. This is a fact. So the questioner says, from early childhood, I was taught to think that I am limited to my name and shape. A mere statement to the contrary will not erase the mental groove. Words don't, a regular brainwashing is needed, if at all it can be done. To which Maharaj replies, you call it brainwashing, I call it yoga. Leveling up all the mental ruts. You must not be compelled to think the same thoughts again and again. Move on. So the questioner now replies again, easier said than done. So we are heating up things here. Easier said than done. So Maharaj says, don't be childish. It's easier to change than to suffer. Grow out of your childishness. That is all. Typical of Maharaj. I was once having a conversation with a friend, and they seem to have trouble in their relationships to a point where they were in isolation and they could sense that something is wrong somewhere. So they came to me and we had a discussion, and they said, you see, I am created in this way. It is my nature to be like this. and therefore I cannot get along with anybody else. Therefore, people take advantage, impinge on my freedom, and hence I have decided to stay isolated, cut off. But at the same time, the pain of loneliness was hurting them. Because as social creatures, we all need to see other human beings, and being in isolation does hurt the mind body organism. So, I suggested something which was similar to what Maharaj said in this book. I said, why don't you examine this notion of yourself, of this image that you've formed, where you say that I am like this, I'm a person who can shut down for many days and not talk to people and stay in complete isolation, and I'm completely okay. I just asked them to question this, just examine this, and there was an instant reaction, a strong reaction. No, this is the way I am, and I'm never going to change. If somebody has to accept me like this, otherwise, leave it. You see, yes, we can do that. We can say that, we have that degree of freedom where we can say, I am like this, and it is fine. There's nothing right or wrong about this here. But am I totally integrated? Do I totally understand this scenario when I say this? That means, do I totally accept that my being a certain way is going to have consequences in the world, is going to have consequences in my relationship? Have I accepted them? If truly, internally, I have accepted that, let's say, for example, if I am a lone wolf and I just like being alone, there are people who are like that. There's nothing wrong and right or wrong about it. Some people are introverted. Some people like to spend time with themselves. Some people are very guarded about their independence, and they just want to be like that. There's nothing wrong with that. However, if their thought is not integrated, if it doesn't come out of the understanding of one's true nature, then there is always this conflict, this division between me and others, where it is usually in the shape of me versus the others. Then we see the world as our enemy, as people planning and plotting against us, as people not loving me. Therefore, I start feeling more unworthy, more unlovable, and I start creating hurt internally. And that hurt becomes a part of my identification again. It becomes the part of my self-image. And Jiddu Krishnamurti said that there is a great pleasure in holding on to that image of hurt, because it gives that separative mind the thrill of hurting others. And he further said that a hurt mind is not an innocent mind. Therefore, at a very fundamental level, we come to this question, who I really am. Now, of course, one has to live with identifications in life, because otherwise flow of life is not possible. Some identifications are required for that purpose. But are they the ultimate truth? Are they the only truth of your existence? Are you just your profession? Are you just your art? Or are you multiple things? Are you this mosaic with multiple shades, with multiple shapes? Who are you? If you'll notice that the separative entity is constantly changing, just like the shapes in a mosaic. But the light that illuminates that structure is one and the same. And that is what Maharaj is pointing to. He says that he tells questioner here that your troubles actually come from this very hard belief that you are this particular thing, this particular way. And you have identified so much with your patterns that they are causing suffering in your life. Now you do realize that the suffering is there, and that is why people start spiritual journey, because they do feel that there is something wrong. There is a difference between people who are on spiritual journey than people who are on self-improvement journey. Because you see, the self that you're trying to improve, the version that you think is the real you, is also an image. And you're trying to move away from one image which you have right now, which you think smokes, drinks, or is very reactive, or is causing trouble in your relationships, and you want to come to a new image which is always calm, peaceful, does not have any addiction to any substances, perfectly calm, honest. But that is again an image, you see. So people who are on self-improvement journey are trying to modify one image into another image. But that usually does not work because it is coming from this separative entity. The need to improve the self, to make better the self, but the self remains. The separation remains. Until the separation remains, the suffering remains. Whereas the seeker's journey is investigation into my real nature, who I really am. And Maharaj says, it's all you. There is no other. There is nothing else. We have to understand what is conveyed by these words. It does not mean that just you exist in the world of appearances. No, in appearances we are appearing as separate entities. What Maharaj is pointing to, that one consciousness that is illuminating these different aspects in separation. Maharaj says witness is one and the same. When you realize this, then you understand the I am that is here is the I am that is there. There is no separation, there is no difference. That is the only thing that you can be sure of. That is existence, and you cannot deny existence. You can deny everything else. Everything else can be challenged, but existence cannot be challenged. Your existence, your amness, your isness cannot be challenged. It is there. You cannot lose it because you never gained it. That is what Maharaj is pointing to. But we create an aversion, an image, which is required for traversing this flow of life, to have interhuman communication, to have relationships. That image is required. An image by itself is not the problem. Grasping to the idea that I am just this image and that I am never going to change is the problem. Once you understand that you are not the image, but you are the light in which all the images appear, this whole issue with trying to change, modify, trying to reason out truth, reality, everything changes. Then you just are, and your being remains the only truth.